Support from others is essential to a brave life. If I didn't have a community, a village behind me, I would have to get a real job and go work in an office, and it would be bad, and I could do it. I could survive. The point is that in between brave moments are messy, fucked up, chaotic moments, and we have to risk it anyway. Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Today I would like to talk about Julia Roberts, but not just Julia Roberts. We watched Mona Lisa Smile this week. That is a movie that I think I only saw once before, and I remembered really enjoying it. And so it was like on Hulu, and I was like, let's watch that. And my partner was like, oh, why? And I'm like, I don't know, I just remember that I liked it and I want to watch it. So he's like, okay, great. He's very much a film guy. And so we frequently watch movies in this house. And we also frequently like roast them and do sort of like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 thing, which is actually something that I want to start doing in the Neurodivergent Creative Pod. I think I want to start like a movie club where like once a month we watch a movie quietly and once a month we watch a movie where like we pause it and talk about it and it takes 4 hours because I like both. Sometimes I like to just watch the movie and absorb the movie. Like last night we watched Avatar, like the blue people Avatar, not Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is also very good. And like collectively as a society, right? Like for some reason we got like mad at Avatar, but it's also one of the highest grossing films. So like it did really well. And yet it sort of falls under the like cringe category of people being like, oh, well, if you like Avatar, I don't know, you like movies that are made to entertain. Like, I don't know. This isn't about film, so I'm gonna bring us back. But one day we're gonna talk about Avatar and why people think it's cringe, because like honestly it was pretty good. It was like, you know, one of the criticisms, I guess we're talking about Avatar first. I just took my meds, so they haven't kicked in yet, and here's what you get. Like one of the criticisms that I'm familiar with of Avatar is that like it's just Fern Gully in space. It's just Pocahontas in space. And like, okay, stories, like that's what stories are, right? Lion King is just Hamlet, but lions, you know, like stories repeat. We take the core essence of a story and update it and make it modern and make it relate to what we're going through now. And that's how storytelling works. If we only uphold things that are 100% unique and brand new, we're going to be really hard pressed to find things that are entertaining. Like, we just are. So I'm in this like intentional phase with media because for a while I got like very like cynical about it. And I was like, oh, like I can see what's coming. And it's like, okay, just because I can see what's coming doesn't mean that like the person who made this movie didn't try really hard or didn't do their best or didn't make something worth watching. And it's been more fun to watch movies since I like reduced the cynicism of it all. So anyway, told you that story to get back to Mona Lisa Smile, which is about an art teacher at Wellesley College, which is an all-girls college, very like prestigious, very conservative. And this is set in like 1953 to 1954. So it's very conservative. And Julia Roberts plays Catherine Watson. Pretty sure that's her name. We're going to go with it. Definitely Catherine. And she has always wanted to teach at Wellesley. And so she gets this art history job and she goes, and on the first day of class, she starts showing slides and every single person in the classroom knows what all the art pieces are because everyone has read the entire textbook. It's a whole college of Hermione Grangers and they're catty about it. And they're like mad at her for some reason. And they're like laughing at her and they're like, why are you showing us the art that we already read about in the textbook? And it's like, why'd you read the whole fucking textbook? I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not Catherine Watson teaching these girls. And so she starts to teach like more modern art. And she brings in like this kind of like grotesque looking painting of like an animal carcass. And everybody's like, that's not in the syllabus. And she's like, yeah, you son of a bitch. It's not in the syllabus. Learn something. Show me something. Tell me, is this art or not? And so they start talking about what makes something art and what makes something like worthy of being considered art and who gets to decide what is art or not. And it's a very compelling movie, in my opinion. Like it takes a bunch of like privileged women, privileged white women. This is a very white cast because it's 1953 at Wellesley. Like, you know, racism aside, it's very much like a privileged sort of like patriarchal society. A lot of these women are planning on getting married, and then like that's what they're going to do with their life is like once they get married, they're married, and you know, who cares about their college degree anymore? I'm like, you're getting like a really expensive college degree to just go off and get married, but that's neither here nor there. And it was also probably more affordable in 1953. I digress. So Catherine is struggling. Catherine is trying to teach these girls about art. And she came to Wellesley because like she wanted to help educate like the next generation of leaders. And in this like very stressed out scene, she says that. She says, I wanted to educate leaders, not their wives. And like that is the crux of like her sort of path here, is that she's a very free spirit. She's not married and she's 30. Ancient, just crusty. Absolutely crusty ovaries on this woman who is 30 years old and unmarried. And like her boyfriend comes for a surprise visit and he proposes to her, and all the girls are like, oh my God, congratulations, yay. And she didn't want to get married, so she told him no. And then she has to be like, we broke up. And then everybody's like, oh, but like, isn't that the point of living? And so she's fighting this anti-feminist sort of like patriarchal expectation of women, but she's also like teaching the girls that they don't just have to be wives. I don't know. There's so much, and like, I don't want to spoil it for you. So you should go watch it. But anyway, at the end of the movie, she is invited back to teach for another year, but they put a lot of rules on her. They're like, you have to stick to the syllabus. You have to submit your lesson plans for the entire semester in advance. You cannot teach modern art. You cannot take them on field trips. And it's very much like, we understand that you're a good teacher and that you did, you know, good work this year, but you have to do it our way if you want to keep getting paid. And so she resigns and she quits. And this is very brave. And it's like kind of the point of the movie is that like art is not something to be controlled and to be contained and to be specifically like dripped out and only teach the quote classics and the good art that old white men said is good. And I love that message. And then, like, there's this wonderfully heartwarming scene at the end where, like, she leaves and all the girls who just graduated are, like, riding their bicycles, like, around her taxi as it leaves campus. And they're like, we love you so much. And she's, like, crying and she's verklempt. And it's beautiful and it's wonderful. But then the movie ends. And what we don't think about is the fact that, like, this now sucks. She has to find a new job. She, like, ended both the relationships that we saw her in this movie. She doesn't have a place to stay. Like, what's she gonna do? The movie says that she's heading out for Europe, but like, we don't know what that means. And when we started watching this movie, I described it as like Dead Poets Society for girls, which is not wrong. So if you're unfamiliar with Dead Poets Society, it's Robin Williams teaching in an all-boys school, and he is teaching poetry or literature or something. I haven't watched this one as recently. And he starts teaching the boys about like more subversive poetry, right? Like they gather at night and they talk about, they create this Dead Poets Society, which I think Robin Williams was part of when he was at that school, when he was a boy, et cetera, whatever. They tease it out. It's a plot. And like, he starts inspiring these boys to like go outside the lines and go not by the book and to explore things that they want to explore. And he loses his job at the end of the film because that's what happens to subversive educators. And that's what's happening right now in the United States and several other places in the world, is that teachers who dare to go against the grain and to teach off the approved white supremacist syllabus are pushed out of schools. And when we see their stories, right, when we see these films, Mona Lisa Smile, Dead Poets Society, Mr. Holland's Opus, like there's no shortage of very inspirational films about a teacher who made a difference. And at the end of those movies, they almost always are jobless. And like, we never think about that part. We never talk about that part. But in between moments of being so brave and so courageous and standing up for what you believe in and standing up for what is right and making a difference in 20 teenage lives, in between those moments, it sucks. And you can't be a hero 100% of the time. You do something heroic and then there's usually a repercussion, because we don't live in a society that supports heroism. We live in a society where heroism means going against authority. And I shared something on my Patreon like the other night after we watched this movie, I just had thoughts. And so I was just typing it on my phone and I published it on my Patreon. And I'm going to read that for you now. Okay. The thing about movies like this, though, movies about a subversive teacher who loses their job because they are, at the end of the day, ungovernable, is that they end on a beautiful high note. A classroom of teenage boys standing on desktops and reciting "Oh Captain, My Captain" as Robin Williams leaves the school. A dozen young women pedaling as fast as they can on their bicycles, still in their graduation gowns, to see their teacher off on her next adventure. But the next adventure is a big pile of a real fucking life and bills to pay and housing to find. The movie isn't about that, so we don't see it. We don't even think about it. It's a movie, neat and tidy, a piece of fiction. But in real life, people do take heroic action that results in joblessness or homelessness or some other crap circumstance. And we really do have to live through it, survive, claw our way out of the hole, try the next thing. Being brave always means taking a risk. It has to. Courage does not exist without risk. To choose to stand up for something, even if you know it could result in loss, to risk it, is to be brave. And though we only see examples of bravery neatly packaged in a film or novel as some kind of isolated incident about one brave person, the reality is that we can't all be brave all of the time. It's a hell of a lot easier to be brave when you have community. Between jobs, maybe Robin Williams' character stays with a friend. Maybe Julia Roberts' character knows a friend of her mother's who has a timeshare in Europe. Whatever. These are made up examples. But maybe you had to go live with your mom because you graduated without any job offers and you decided to divorce your husband even though you had no income. Personal example. Maybe friends bought artwork and coaching sessions when you were super broke because you fell for a debt settlement scam that took up almost all of your income for months, and you were finally forced to turn to the people who love you and ask for their help. Personal example. Maybe your housemates split the bills 3 ways instead of 4 so you can get back on your feet. Personal example. Support from others is essential to a brave life. If I didn't have a community, a village behind me, I would have to get a real job and go work in an office, and it would be bad, and I could do it. I could survive. But isn't it brave for me to whisper to you in the alleyways of the internet that rules are made up and you should write poetry about the fake rules and how they make you feel? Isn't it brave of me to not fall in line and do something my mother would approve of? Isn't it brave to wake up in the morning and decide what I'll do today instead of having my days assigned to me by a task manager? Anyway, the point is that in between brave moments are messy, fucked up, chaotic moments, and we have to risk it anyway. And a lot of people like that. That really resonated with people over on the Patreon. It's important to think about, and it's important to know that, like, when you are brave, bad stuff could happen. And being brave is about standing up for what's right, even though it is inconvenient, even though it is risky. It is putting yourself between danger and someone more marginalized than you. And that's not to say that you have to, like, always be doing math. Like, oh, that person is of a different race than I am, and maybe they're a woman, or maybe they're pregnant, or like what, I don't know. You don't have to do like the privilege math. Just insert yourself if you can. If you see something happening, go be a menace about it. Like if you see ICE agents or police just sort of profiling, just go, oh, hey, what's going on? Like if you're white, especially, go stick your nose in that business. Be a Karen. Be a Karen for good. And it's so much easier to do that when you have a community to lean back on, when you know that even if you have some kind of repercussion, somebody's going to have your back. So not everybody can do that. Not everybody can risk their job. Not everybody can risk their housing. I can, because I live in a house where like my roommates make sure that I'm not homeless. That's a huge privilege that I have. And so I get to come on the internet and talk to you about art and talk to you about movies and talk to you about bravery. And I love that for me and for you. Hopefully you're also having a great time. Like I get up in the morning and I can't believe this is my life, where I just get to go make art and talk about art and be a creative person and inspire you. I love inspiring you. I really fucking love it. And I don't know, maybe one day my YouTube will get shut down, or maybe one day I will get banned from Meta because I said something about billionaires one too many times. So in the event that that happens, I encourage you to sign up for my email list so that we can stay in touch. That is at askfishfisher.com. And also sign up for my Patreon, because that's where I write good little inspirational messages like like that little essay I wrote about heroic movies and subversive educators. And honestly, the more that I am bringing in through the Patreon, the less I have to charge for my work. And that's something that I've been working on too. And that's also, I think, brave. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that. In a paradigm that says like you should always be raising your rates and you should, your ideal client is the person who can pay your rate. I don't think so. I want to be in more of a mutual aid space because the people that I want to help reconnect with their creativity and their passions and everything, even if you're not brave in a huge way, you can be brave in small creative ways. You can write a zine, or you can publish stories under a pen name, or you can start a blog, or you can make art. There are a lot of ways to be brave that don't involve putting your livelihood on the line. And I understand that. And you're not a bad person for not risking it all the time. Because then what are you going to do? You risk it all, you lose it all, then you can't help anybody. That's not a net gain for the cause. It's better to have you employed so that maybe you can send $20 a month to a cause that you care about. Or maybe you can join a local organization. Or maybe you can buy Girl Scout cookies from the Trans Girl Scout list. I will put a link to that in the show notes if it's still Girl Scout cookie season by the time this publishes. Anyway, all this to say, you can be brave in lots of different ways. And I like being brave with you. So thanks for that. Thanks for tuning in. We are still raising funds on Patreon. We are at $145 a month now, and I'm still shooting for $500 a month to bump us up to 4 episodes. So if you love the podcast and you would like to support it, please go sign up on Patreon. It is as low as $3 a month, and you get to hang out with me a little bit more. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Approach and tell you a joke to lighten your load and help you along, or sing you a song. Do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do.